Don't come here and you think we gonna be a mentor and we're not gonna be honest with you. That's not how that works.
Because we're gonna pour into you, and that sometimes means we're gonna say, stop it.
Or why they giving me so much work? This syllabus is crazy. What are you talking about? Like looking at 5 papers? What you mean 5 papers?
You have to do the work to find your tribe.
Yeah.
But you also have to let people in who know more than you. I don't jump up and down because you made it here. Seriously. Because that's just like step 1 of like multiple steps. I want you to walk across that stage.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I want to introduce my first guest, my friend, my colleague, Dr. Malika Turner. And I'm going to ask that you tell them a little bit about what you do here on campus, maybe conceptualize it, because I could just drop your title, but I think that's kind of lost for most students and most parents. So maybe share your title and just how you would impact them if they chose to come to IUP.
Oh, wow. So I'm excited to be here in this conversation with you. Again, Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs. What does that mean, right? I oversee 5 different areas here on campus and different projects as well. So one that most students know of would be the Food Pantry and Help Center. I oversee the operations of that. Service, or that we have here at the university, and just work with some programs, student programs, the Crimson Scholar Circle. If you come through the Crimson Scholar Circle, students, you will see me at some point because I help with the steering of that committee and making sure that we're coming together and we have everything set for the program and set really for the success of the students who come through the program. I'm also the co-director of the Frederick Douglass Institute. I'm not going to get into that, but really is helping students further their DEI exposure and experience with faculty and staff here on campus.
And for those who are unfamiliar, we'll try to explain terms as we go. But DEI just simply is an acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
And it's something that's really important. It's always been important, but as of late, it's become a really important topic.
Focus on it a lot.
Yeah, for politicians, for college campuses, you name it. And so this topic is going to kind of venture into that DEI space. Might ruffle a few feathers, might make people feel more at home, but all the same, we want to have honest conversations whenever we're having a Crimson conversation.
Right.
So today's conversation is going to be titled Learning While Black. And essentially what we're talking about is heavy. We started off with a banger.
Right.
Essentially what we're trying to accomplish is giving Black and brown students, African American, Latinx, Asian, biracial, multiracial, the whole gambit. If you're underrepresented, we're trying to have a conversation to help them understand what it will be like to learn and thrive at a PWI. And for the sake of making sure you understand everything, because we're educators, a PWI is a predominantly white institution. As we're looking at different colleges and universities in the United States, the vast majority, arguably about 97%, are going to be PWIs. So when we're looking for colleges, most of the schools you'll check out, if they're not an HBCU, will be a PWI, predominantly white institution. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a thing. It's just a reality. And so as we're having our conversation, this first bit of it, I want to kind of talk about what could people expect? I mean, you graduated from PWI, so did I. Right.
And I stayed. And so did you. That's the testimony. We stayed.
And we stayed. Yeah.
I think, and I'll just say this. I applied to HBCUs and PWIs.
Okay.
2 HBCUs, 2 PWIs.
Yeah.
The difference for me probably was the financial aid offering and the visit. When I came to IUP, I felt like this was home for me. And I didn't even meet anyone, but just the layout at that time, that was 1991, don't laugh, all right. But it just felt like home for me.
Yeah.
And so, and I think so when you are a Black or brown student, especially if you've grown up in an urban area, it is a culture shock. So you have to expect that you want to find your tribe. Like find your group, find your people, find them, right? So you won't feel so isolated, but you are gonna feel like, wow, I don't belong here. Like, where's my people? And that, I think that that's the first thing that it kind of thrusts you into this mode of survival. And do you understand what I'm saying? It's like,
sure.
okay, like, where are my people? Okay, I got to make sure I find somebody who looks like me.
And this might be the first time somebody's ever felt that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Now, I didn't go to predominantly black high school, so it was okay for me. Like, I was okay. The transition was all right, but I
Yeah.
also have to say that what I did was found my group. I found an organization immediately. I found a church. I found what was familiar to me back at home. And I think that that's something that you have to do if you are accustomed to a more urban environment, especially, right?
I'd argue you probably have to do that regardless of
Anyway.
where you come from, right?
Right.
Because here's the thing, for our majority students or white students who come from a really rural background, this is the big city.
It is the
which
city.
Which is crazy,
Which is
right?
crazy
like
for
it's
me.
hard for you to consider.
Right,
I
right,
can't
right,
consider,
right.
but it might be the
The
big city for
city,
somebody.
yeah.
For someone else, it might be that they are from, again, like an urban environment or a multiracial environment. And all the same, when you're coming to college, you're coming to something new. There's going to be some shock, but we're saying that's maybe heightened for black and brown students.
Right.
I know when I first started my career, I was recruiting in Philly. Philly is a majority minority city.
Right.
There's not so many cities that can claim that. So you go to a high school, whether it be King or Strawberry Mansion, Northeast, you used to be in a predominantly black and brown environment.
Right.
And then you come here, teachers,
your
administrators, everybody.
everything.
And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm a minority?
Right.
So like at a PWI, for a lot of students, it's the first time they've ever felt like a minority.
Yeah, and so when you get here, here's my thing. You have to find, and I want to stress that, because, we have different programs for students now that I think lend themselves to helping the students make that connection quicker. So I appreciate what we do here at IUP. Like we have kinds of programs, the kinds of, we are very intentional about who's speaking at the orientations and, you know what I'm saying? Like we're doing the work to really try to change.
And to be intentional.
Right. How we are introducing a sense of belonging early. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
I feel like you feel like you belong before you get here. We're trying to make that more of an intentional work.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You've been here, you attended in the 90s. I attended in the 2000s. We're now at 2022. Do you see like an arc of improvement? Like, do you see that increase in intentionality? Because I know we're intentional now, but you got to see it back then. Are we more intentional as a university?
Well, that's a good question because let me tell you what admissions did that was one thing that struck me. They sent a bus to the Philly area, and the admissions counselor was a black woman. I'll never forget her. She rode the bus with us. She was there to greet us. Right? Those things mean a lot.
Yeah.
It shows that we care enough that we don't just send the bus, but we're sending somebody who's going to meet you, who was kind of there to guide you through the experience. So I feel like we're still doing that.
Okay.
It's what happens when you come to campus that I feel like
maybe that's more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I still feel like we have these dynamic admissions counselors, wink, wink,
Thank you.
who are putting in the work and giving out their cell phone numbers and saying, hey, call me. So that you're still doing. But I think it's the intentional work that we do when you come to campus. Let me tell you something. There are not many PWIs you're going to go and the VP and the AVP is black. That's just real talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, black
We'll keep
students,
it 100 on this.
Yeah. Like,
Okay,
black
right.
students need to see administration
Yeah.
in people that look like them in the administration, in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I think that helps to, like, we're not in the office. We're outside the office. We're getting our hands dirty.
I've lost
in
the
the
game of
dining
spades
hall.
to Dr. Seeger.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
I got you.
We're in the dining hall. You know,
Yeah.
we're very intentional about trying to make sure that we're connecting with students, and I think that's something that we've done a very good job of, is just being hands-on. no shade to anyone who was in positions before us over the years. I just think we're more intentional and we are being pushed, you know what I'm saying, to think through that intentionally and really strategize how we can touch students, especially our underrepresented students, in a way that we make them feel belong from day one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a crime to have white administrators,
Oh,
white faculty.
absolutely not. No,
it's not a crime to
no.
be a PWI. That's not the goal of saying learning while black, right?
Right.
But what we're saying is, if the vast majority of universities, colleges are PWIs, if that's one of the major options you're going to have, then what we're really saying is try to find a school that's going to be intentional, that's going to be consistent. If they make a pledge to you during the recruitment process, they're maintaining it.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to know that if you're a college recruit or a parent. So really it's about meeting with alums. It's about talking to current students.
About
visiting the campus.
Yeah, you got to visit.
Too many people buy blind. They buy higher education blind. They don't come to see the campus. They don't connect with anybody.
Right.
I give them a cell number. They don't hit me up.
Right.
You meet them during the tour. They don't talk to you afterwards. So like we can't buy blind is what we're saying, I think, too.
I think that's important, but I think we talked about this before. Students have a responsibility. Like when in Rome, do what Romans do. Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the things I jump on the students about is you need to check your email.
Okay.
Okay, like don't come here and don't check your email.
Yeah.
Right, you
yeah.
need to, that's our official communication.
Yeah.
Get with the program.
Yeah.
Don't come tell me you didn't get my email when you
Yeah.
needed help with financial aid,
Yeah.
right? Because that's how I'm going to communicate with you.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a set of rules, if you will, especially at a PWI, because you're, Mrs. Johnson that you might meet up with at, I don't know, Ben Franklin,
Your high school, yeah.
your high school, who is, really working with you and kind of holding your hand through. I mean, we care about you, but we also give you a set of like tools that will help you to be successful. Check your email, go to the office hours. This is important. This is why it's important.
Utilize all of the resources.
All of the resources. And that is part of the success that any student, black and brown, I had to learn that the hard way.
And I think that's true regardless of what type of institution.
Exactly.
Like these are things that are true of IUP, but it's true anywhere you go. If you want to be successful at IUP, which is a PWI, you have to utilize all the resources. You paid for them.
Yeah, exactly.
The example I gave the other day was this, right? So I said to a group of students that were in an admissions presentation, I said, it would be, to not use the resources, it would be like going to a restaurant and you order a filet mignon. And I personally, I like mine, medium well, right?
Okay.
I want a little trace amount of pink, but not too much. Right? I
Right.
don't want it still mooing. And so you get your steak and you get your asparagus and you get your lobster starch mashed potatoes and you get all of these different things. You get the biscuits, right? You get everything. And you order it and it all comes to the table and it looks exquisite. Instagram food photo worthy.
Right.
And then you walk away from the table. I'm good. They don't box it up. You don't take a bite. You just walk away from the table. That's what it is to go to a university like IUP that is being intentional, that has an assistant vice president of student affairs, that is African American, has an admissions counselor that's multiracial, Afro-Latino, and you don't talk to anybody, you don't use any
You
of the
don't make the
resources. You ordered this
connections.
beautiful plate, this ornate plate, you paid all this money, you don't touch any of it.
I'm kind of hungry, but I see what you're saying.
Well, I didn't have my lunch yet, so that's where this is really coming from.
I see what
so
you're
we got to get
saying.
steak on the next set, right? But essentially, I just don't want people to get this beautiful plate and not touch it.
That's good.
That's
good.
crazy.
I like that.
So before we get into any more advice, because we're kind of venturing into the advice realm, I want to spend like maybe another minute or so talking about PWIs. And you mentioned how when you come here, it might be the first time that you kind of feel this isolation. And I was in a conversation yesterday, oddly enough, where a person and I were out, we were having a meal, and they had said, I didn't recognize I was the only black person here until I looked at you. And when I looked at you, I was reminded of your blackness and then reminded of my own. And it got me to thinking, you were a student here, so was I. When do you start to feel that you're at a PWI? Like, because people watching, we keep saying it and we keep talking about how it's going to be a culture shock. And we're not saying don't do it, because we work here. We want you to come to IUP. But what might they feel when they come here?
I think when I first noticed it, because I was enrolled in the Learning Center program,
Okay.
in that program there were mostly black and brown students who came through the summer, right? When when fall opening, when I had to walk across campus and I didn't see any of the people that I hung out with for, I think it might have been 4 weeks for me, 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
I was like, where
they all
where
at?
is everybody? Like,
Yeah.
where are my people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see that. The classroom, not so much. It was walking through campus and feeling like I'm terrified. I literally, I can remember that walking from the hub area back down. I had to go back down to campus and I felt terrified. I was like, where is everybody? And I went to a predominantly white high school. I was the only black cheerleader in my high school. So I know what it's like. But we had formed such a closeness that it was like, I feel like I gotta find them. So believe it or not, you create these small locations and meetups and community spaces that you do. It's like getting a charge up, right? It's like taking your electric car and going and charging up, and then you can go. But it's just nice for Black and brown students, and that's, for me, that's what I found when I started walking across campus, and I was like, where is everyone? So I think that was my feeling. That's what I felt.
Yeah. That
the classroom, there were a couple big class, I had a big history class, and I remember being like, only Black person here. Okay, all right, you know. So you will feel it. You're gonna feel like, do I belong here? I should have went to the HBCU. I should have stuck it out and just lived in, you know, their housing was overcrowded. And I didn't want to go out of state and not have a place to live.
Yeah.
So I said, no, this is at least,
IUP.
right.
Yeah.
But you get that feeling of, I should have went elsewhere.
So how did you overcome that? Because now they're watching, they're like, wait a minute, so I'm not coming to IUP.
Yep.
And before you even answer, I want to give you a moment to think about it. I didn't actually feel that, but I think it's because my high school was in a predominantly white neighborhood, even though it was a diverse high school. So I went to George Washington High School in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And every cultural group, racial group you could imagine was there. We
there.
had everybody. We like to call ourselves Ellis Island. Like, we had everybody. Like, everybody you could imagine. Come, your huddle masters. Like, everybody was at that high school.
Right.
But it was in a predominantly white neighborhood. And I took 2 buses, the 18 and the 57, right, or 58, every day to get to this school. So I knew what it was to go into a space that maybe wasn't intentionally mine, but I was there to learn. I was there to grow. And so this was not unfamiliar for me because I had already had to do it. I had to enter someone else's neighborhood, someone else's space. And I had moments that were not pleasant, but for the most part it was cool.
Right.
So this wasn't scary for me. But for the student who is going to a majority minority high school, has a Mrs. Johnson or Mr. Khalil, or has that community, that support, the hand holding even, what do you do when you get here? Because you not only stayed for 1 degree, but for 3 of them things. For 3 of those things. So why? Why, and how did you survive it?
I think for me, it was always going back to the friend group. I mean, I had to be intentional. Okay. Right. So a lot of back then we had 2 dining halls. A lot of the Black and brown students ate in 1 dining hall. I was there. And it wasn't about being afraid. That at that point, it was about connection. I just wanted to connect.
So you prioritized connection.
It was a priority.
Okay.
I joined the choir.
You can sing?
That pulled me in just a little bit.
I'm messing with you.
That pulled me back in.
Okay.
So I got a little taste of home from that.
Okay.
You know, I actually, the residence director I worked for, who kicked my butt, I was horrible. I was late all the time. I wasn't doing my work right. I mean, she was an African-American woman in Gordon Hall, okay?
That's a throwback.
Exactly. But, you know, just having her in my life who just cared enough to kind of correct some of the behaviors and speak into my life. And the other piece is mentoring. I had white faculty and staff members who were mentors for me too. And so I had women, I mean, I can remember them, one has passed away, but she spoke into my life and told me, you can do this. You've got what it takes. I mean, she honed in on me. And then I had a couple of Black faculty and staff members who were mentors also. So I think you have to really open yourself up to, you know, you have to do the work to find your tribe.
Yeah.
But you also have to let people in who know more than you. I just want to stop right there. Okay, so your friends are great, but they don't know more than you. And that was the one thing that I learned. I had faculty and staff, white, black, red, purple. When I let them in and they began to speak into my life and encourage me, even when I felt like I didn't read quick enough, I didn't write fast enough, I didn't write well, I felt insecure, I was doing, all of that stuff, I opened myself up to faculty and staff here who really encouraged me. And I think we both know about that. We make it our business to mentor students on all levels, but specifically the Black and brown students who open themselves up to us. We pour into them, and it makes a difference. And that's what I found to help me to stay at an IUP.
So as a mentor, I know I definitely don't want to violate anybody's free will, right? And so I don't pour unless you want to be poured into.
Right.
But I'd learned that from my own mentor, so I think that's really a salient point. And just to distill like what you said so far, guys, I think there were so many gems in there. If you're going to come to a PWI, you need to be able to find mentors for sure. That is crucial. And some are going to look like you,
and some
are not.
Right.
And that is okay. We have to prepare ourselves for the fact that some of our mentors, some of the people who will impact our lives the most will be outside of our racial or ethnic group. And if that's not something you want, then the transition may be difficult.
Right.
I think the other piece is that you have to be willing to receive accountability, because you said that somebody was whooping your behind to make sure that you became the professional you are today. I have a couple supervisors, current and in the past, that have whooped my behind, and I needed it.
Exactly.
I needed it. Didn't always want
and
it,
we
but I
will
needed
too.
it. Correct.
I do it every day.
Don't come here and you think we're going to be a mentor and we're not going to be honest with you. That's not how that works.
Because we're going to pour into you, and that sometimes means we're going to say, stop it. And that's what you'll get at an HBCU. Does that make sense? Somebody, I should have went to an HBCU. Oh, no. You're going to get the same kind of love here at this PWI if you let us.
So love, from what I'm hearing, is not exclusive to HBCUs.
No, that
it might look a little different.
Yeah.
But it's still available at a PWI.
Absolutely. And there are some things we can say to students, to Black and brown students, that maybe someone else couldn't say. We're still going to dig in, because ultimately, we represent IUP, we want to see the students succeed. I will say this too, you coming to college is like, that's fine. I mean, I'm happy for you. Your parents have celebrated you. I want to see you graduate. So I don't jump up and down because you made it here, seriously, because that's just like step one of like multiple steps. I want you to walk across that stage. So that requires accountability, correction, love, celebration, introductions, right? It's a lot to and it takes more than just, we're just so excited you're here. You're here, now the work begins, and that's what we enjoy.
I mean, here's the thing. You can celebrate getting into college. That's a wonderful thing. But don't stop.
Right, don't stop.
And celebrate so much that you just stop doing stuff.
That's what Black and brown students do. They're so excited about getting here. They check out when they get here, because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What does this mean? What is D2L? Where's the financial aid office? How come what's my IUP? So they're like overwhelmed, and sometimes our students get checked out.
Or why they giving me so much work? This syllabus is crazy. What are you talking about? Like looking at 5 papers? What you mean 5 papers? And it's like, you paid for this world-class education. So
like,
you got 5 papers.
You got to do the work.
Yes, you got 5. Now, again, I didn't like writing them when I had to write them. But we got to do them because I'm trying to get this world-class education.
Right.
So I think that's a really good thing, is you got to be ready for the work. We're going to celebrate you getting into school. We are excited that you're here. We're excited you want to come to IUP. We're excited that you might be the first one in your family to go to college. We're excited.
Right.
But the work doesn't stop there. It starts there.
Right.
And if you're to be as successful as we know you are capable of being, you have to be ready to be confronted when you are given less
I don't play
effort.
games.
and know that we're going to balance that confrontation with your poor behavior with championing you.
Right.
Because we want you to win.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, we want you to win.
We
want you to win.
IUP wants you to win.
wants you to win.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That is good.